Good day, everyone. I'm Jima Ade Samuel, and today we'll be treating measure of central tendency. Move on to the mean, median, and mode of grouped data. So now, when you see, when it comes to the arithmetic mean of a group data, the formula then becomes x equals sigma fx over sigma f. And you could see that these are something we did in our primary, in our JHS, SHS. We did these things, so these things shouldn't be a problem. So where the x is the middle value or midpoint of each class, the f is the frequency in each class, the fx is the frequency in each class times the midpoint of the class, the sigma fx is the sum of these products, and the n is the total number of frequencies. So now that we are going to solve an examples how to get our x and how to get our fx. Now we are going to solve how to get our x and how to get our fx. So now let's draw our table. So we have our class limits, our class boundaries. So from class limits, class boundaries, we proceed to x, then f, then fx. So now let's input our class limit values. Then from there we proceed to our class boundaries. So now the class limit is 7 to 3 to 7, 8 to 12, 13 to 17, 18 to 22, 23 to 27, 28 to 32, 33. You are getting 0.5 when you divide the 1 by 2. When you subtract this 7 from this 8, you are getting 1. When you divide that 1 by 2, you are getting 0.5. You subtract the 0.5 from 3 and you add the 0.5 to this 7. So, and that is what you do to all. So now let's start with the 3. 0, when you subtract 0.5 from 3, you are getting 2.5. Then when you add it to the 7, you are getting 7.5. So let's solve. So 8, you are getting. So now we have our class boundaries. So now how then do we solve for our x? But before that, let's state our f, which was already given. So we have 20, 43, 75, 67, 72, 45, 39, 9, 8, and 6. So now we have our f, so it's left with us to compute our x and the fx, sorry, and the fx. So with the x, you add the class limit, then you divide by 2. So when you add 3 to 7, you are getting 10. And when you divide 10 by 2, you are getting 5. Yes. So let's take our calculator and compute the rest. So when you add 8 to 12, you are getting 20. And when you divide 20 by 2, you are getting 10. When you add 13 to 17, you are getting 30. And when you divide by 2, you are getting 15. When you add 18 to 22, you are getting 40. And when you divide by 2, you are getting 20. When you add 23 to 27, you are getting 50. And when you divide by 2, you are getting 25. When you add 28 to 32, you are getting 60. And when you divide by 2, you are getting 30. When you add 33 to 37, you are getting 70. And when you divide by 2, you are getting 35. When you add 38 to 42, you are getting 80. And when you divide by 2, you are getting 40. When you add 43 to 47, you are getting 90. And when you divide by 2, you are getting 45. When you add 48 to 52, you are getting 100. And when you divide by 2, you are getting 50. You are getting 50. So now we have our x. We have our x. Someone will ask, how then do we get our fx? Someone will ask, how then do we get our fx? So with the fx, you multiply the 5, you multiply the x by the f, or you multiply the f by the x. So now 20 by 5. So 5 times 20, what are you getting? You are getting 100. Then 10 by 43, you are getting 430. 15 by 75, you are getting 1,125. 67 by 20, you are getting 1,340. 1,340. When you multiply 72 by 25, you are getting 1,800. When you multiply 30 by 45, you are getting 1,350. When you multiply 35 by 39, you are getting 1,365. When you multiply 40 by 9, you are getting 360. When you multiply 45 by 8, you are getting 360 here too. And when you multiply 50 by 6, you are getting 300. So now we have our fx. We have our fx. So now, as I said, when computing arithmetic mean, the formula then becomes your mean equals your sigma fx over sigma f. So now we have our fx here and we have our f here. So now we would have to add all our figures for the f to get our sigma f, and add all our figures for the fx to get our sigma fx. So now let's compute all these figures. So we have 100 plus 430 plus 1125 plus 1340 plus 1800 plus 1350 plus 1365 plus 360 plus 360 again plus 300 plus 300. We are getting 8130. We are getting 8130 as our sigma fx. So now let's compute our sigma f, which is 20 plus 43 plus 75 plus 67 plus 72 plus 45 plus 39 plus 9 plus 8 plus 6, and we are getting 384. So now we have our sigma f and we have sigma fx. So now let's divide our sigma fx by our sigma f, and we are getting 21.17. Yes, 21.17 as our arithmetic mean. And we are going to use this same table to aid us compute our assumed mean and the others. So we are going to use this same table and the figures to aid us. So now when you are given a question and you are asked to find your arithmetic mean, you have to use your fx and your f. That is sigma fx over sigma f. So we taught how to compute your x, how to get your class boundaries, and also how to get your sigma fx and your sigma f. So we move on to calculating assumed mean. We move on to calculating assumed mean. So we move on to method 2. Method 2 is assumed mean, finding an assumed mean. So you can be given a question and you'll be asked to find an assumed mean. With what we did, this helped us find our arithmetic mean. So the arithmetic mean is where the mean becomes sigma fx over sigma f. This is the arithmetic mean. So the sigma fx is getting the total of the fx, and the sigma f is getting the total of the f. That is what we did for the arithmetic mean. The arithmetic mean. We move on to assumed mean, which is method 2. Assumed mean. So assumed mean has a formula, and this is the formula for assumed mean. This is the formula for assumed mean. Someone will be asking, what is this? Someone will be asking, what is this? So, without wasting much time, we are going to calculate for our assumed mean, how to find our assumed mean using this same table we have here, using the same figures we have here. But remember that with the assumed mean, whenever assumed mean question is given to you, you are given an A. You are given an A. This A will be given to you. This A will be given to you. So now let's take our A to be 30. Our A to be 30. Let's take our A to be 30. Wherever you see assumed mean, an A is given to you. So please write down the formula so that we proceed. So wherever you see an assumed mean or you are asked to calculate an assumed mean, A is given to you. So if you are given a question and you see A, that means that you will be calculating for assumed mean as well. So now, with assumed mean, this table is going to continue. So with assumed mean, you would have to find your D. You would have to find your D. And now, how then do you find your D? How then do you find this D? this D is x minus 30, x minus 30, and the 30 is the A that I said will be given to you. So this is the A, this is the A, 30. So your D is x minus 30, x minus 30. Then you move on to another side and it becomes FD. It becomes FD. So now let's calculate for our D, and after that we move on. And after we move on to FD. So now let's do the D. When you take 30 from 5, you are getting negative 25. When you take 30 from 10, you are getting negative 20. When you take 30 from 15, you are getting negative 15. When you take 30 from 20, you are getting negative 10. You see I'm using my calculator. Use your calculator. Let your work be in order. So when you take 30 from 25, you get negative 5. 30 from 30, you are getting 0. So when you take 30 from 35, you are getting positive 5. When you take 30 from 40, you are getting positive 10. When you take 30 from 45, you are getting positive 15. When you take 30 from 50, you are getting positive 20. So this is our D. So now let's move on to our FD. So with the FD, you multiply your F by your D here. So now let's multiply 20 by negative 25. I'm getting negative 500. Let's multiply 43 by negative 20. I'm getting negative 860. Let's multiply 75 by negative 15. We are getting negative 1125. Let's multiply 67 by negative 10. You are getting negative 670. Let's multiply 72 by negative 5. You are getting negative 360. Let's multiply 45 by 0. You are getting 0. Let's multiply 39 by 5. You are getting 195. Let's multiply 9 by 10. You are getting 90. Let's multiply 8 by 15. You are getting 120. And let's multiply 6 by 20. You are getting 120. Okay. Great. So now we have our FD. We have our FD. And in the question, as I said, when you are given an assumed mean question, your A will be given to you. And our A is given to be 30. So now let's look back to the formula of assumed mean. It's X equals A plus sigma F D over sigma F. Good. So now our sigma FD, we are going to get our sigma FD by getting the total of the FD. So now let's do our calculation here. We will be adding the figures we had in our FD. So negative 500 plus negative 860 plus negative 1125 plus negative 670 plus negative 360 plus 0 plus 195 plus 90 plus 120 plus 120. We are getting negative 2,990. So our sigma FD, the total of the FD is giving us negative 2,990. So we now have our FD. So we will divide our FD by our sigma F. So now let's get the total of our sigma F. So the F, we are going to add all the F. So we have 20 plus 43 plus 75 plus 67 plus 72 plus 45 plus 39 plus 9 plus 8 plus 6. We are getting 385. 385. So our sigma f is 384. Our sigma f is 384. Sorry, not 385. It's 384. So now we have our sigma fd and our sigma f. So we will add our 30, and the 30 was given to be the a was given to be 30. Sorry, the a was given to be 30. And now when you are to compute this, when you are to compute this, you first have to solve for this. You first have to solve for this, and you are getting negative 7.8. You are getting negative 7.8 when you divide the sigma fd by sigma f. This is what you get. You are getting negative 7.8. 7.8. So this then becomes the equation now. This then becomes the equation now. But since there's positive here and we had negative, this negative won't be there. So therefore it will become 30 minus 7.8. So you subtract 7.8 from 30 and you are getting 22. You are getting 22.2 as our assumed mean. As our assumed mean. So this is how you go about the assumed mean. That is the formula. Then after getting your fx, your x, because the f will be given to you, your class boundaries, your class limit, you go ahead to find your d, which is taking 30 from x. With this, the a was given to be 30, but in other cases, the figures are going to change. Then you know how to go about it. Then you get your fd. Then you fix them into your formula. You fix them into your formula.